there's that old line about hubris. I can't remember exactly where it comes from, but chutzpah, not hubris. Chutzpah is if you kill your parents and then tell the judge that you deserve mercy because you're an orphan. There's this old line that is what chutzpah is. Hunter Biden has chutzpah. You may use a different word because you are Clay. But, because you like to say the things that I'm like, are we allowed to say that on the radio? He's got something on him for sure. Hunter Biden now has his lawyers saying that federal and state prosecutors should open criminal investigations into people who shared the laptop and the information of this. He wants investigations of Rudy Giuliani, Steve Bannon, John Mac Isaac, who owns that computer repair shop. And Biden, of course, in this process, Hunter Biden is admitting beyond any, not that there was any doubt, but he's admitting the whole thing was real. There was nothing fake. There was no Russian disinformation. I got to think, Clay, that this is because he's worried at this stage about something. What do you think why is Hunter all of a sudden, is this trying to run a smokescreen for dad with the documents? Like, why is there pressure? Is he worried about what's in the classified documents? Because he's going on offense and he's in no position to do so.
It's fascinating. So the Washington Post broke this story, and you may not have seen it because it didn't necessarily get a lot of attention. But the biggest takeaway is, and I think this is a big deal, Miranda Devine is with us, who did the laptop stories for the New York Post and also wrote a book, Laptop from Hell, all about Hunter's laptop. And she also did a deep dive set with me in the podcast show with Clay and Buck. You can go listen to that. But, Buck, the most important thing is here, to my knowledge, this is the first time that Hunter Biden has said the laptop is 100% real. Because that's the most important takeaway, I would say, here. Because they had the 51 national security officials who came out and say this has all the hallmarks of Russian disinformation. Even in his own book and in the interviews he did promoting that book, Hunter Biden said basically he didn't know whether this laptop was real or not because he was using so many drugs then that he wasn't aware. This is crazy to me. And this is a direct quote from the letter. They're going after anyone who was involved in sharing any of this laptop. They claim that a half dozen people have violated various statutes by making public restricted private information, access and disseminating stolen property. The action, I'm reading directly from the letter, the actions described above more than merit a full investigation and, depending on the resulting facts, may merit prosecution under various statutes. It's not a common thing for a private person and his counsel to seek someone else being investigated, but the actions and motives here require it. The letters, they say, are focused on John Paul Mac Isaac, who is the computer repair shop owner, and they also want Rudy Giuliani, Giuliani's lawyer, Stephen Bannon. They wrote a letter to Tucker Carlson, threatening Tucker Carlson on Fox News for statements that he's made about this laptop. I have not seen, I don't know, we'll ask Miranda Devine next hour whether she received any sort of letters from the Hunter Biden team about the reporting that she has done on this case. But, Buck, the John Paul Mac Isaac people say pretty clearly that after skimming the letters, this is his attorney, the only thing I see is a privileged person hiring yet another high-priced attorney to redirect attention away from his own unlawful actions. No other comments at this time. And Giuliani says, look, the laptop was abandoned property after he didn't retrieve it, and says, Giuliani's attorney does, raising concerns now after so many years indicates just how devastating the text and videos from Hunter's laptop truly are. And so this is, I got to be honest with you, Buck. It's rare that I'm surprised. This is, to me, a crazy move by Hunter Biden. And we know Hunter Biden has past been crazy, so I don't know who's driving this train of subterfuge, I would say. But the big story here is he's admitted the laptop is real now. And for a long time, that was his best defense. Now it's real and it shouldn't have been distributed, and the distribution of my private property is criminal. Well, that's a pretty aggressive shift in his overall narrative. And the question you're asking is, I think, a really good one, Buck. It's, why is he doing this? Who is advising him on this? And what does he stand to gain from it? And that's where, even as a lawyer, I sit back and I really can't understand what he is gaining in this process, Buck. Because maybe your argument is, oh, I'm going to put the onus on the Department of Justice and the FBI. But now he's trying to make himself look like a victim, which makes me think maybe charges are coming. It just doesn't add up to me at all. It obviously muddies the waters a bit, I guess, but it actually clarifies what was his best defense, which was this isn't real, which is what they've run with for the past 2 years. Now it's, oh, how dare you share my private information, which completely undercuts the argument that he made for years.
Well, I know this just from basic employment law and the ways things go for people who are working at different companies. If it's on a company laptop, it's the company's effectively, right? They can make that claim. Now, Hunter Biden left his laptop, as I understand it, after a certain period, that laptop becomes the property of the shop. And you sign something that says, look, if you leave this here eventually, because, mostly so they can just throw it away and not be held liable, right? Because otherwise, somebody could leave something and say, oh, I had, the secret to Coca-Cola was on that laptop. You can't throw that out. I'm going to sue you. And so I don't think that has any standing here whatsoever. And I don't really understand what the PR, like what the move is here, unless he's desperate about something. That's what I keep coming back to. Why now, Clay? Like, the timing of this is what I'm trying to understand, that he's running around. I mean, this is the top story on foxnews.com right now. He's facing investigation from House Republicans, obviously. So they're still looking into this. But unless there's a tie-in with Joe Biden, none of this really moves the needle, meaning it doesn't change anything about the regime. Whether Hunter, I don't think he's going to get indicted, obviously. I've thought that all along. I think you think maybe he will. It's kind of up in the air. But unless there's a Joe Biden tie-in, this doesn't threaten the Democrats in any real way. And, of course, right now, I think there's some Democrats who are hoping there's a Joe Biden tie-in so they can figure out some alternative to this guy. And I think there's a sense of disarray. Look, I'm not sure that Hunter has some strategy here because he's Hunter Biden, but I do think it's possible that there's something up here that's not obvious from the timing of it all.
His lawyers are talented, and he's paying them somehow. I mean, I have no idea how. These guys are $1,000 an hour lawyers, right? Big-time D.C. heavyweights. So someone has said to Hunter Biden, hey, you need even more elite legal representation than you already had, and you need a shift in the story that you are telling. What I can't put my finger on, Buck, is how in any way it benefits him. Now initially, whether you believed it or not, and clearly we did not, his story was that laptop either is, initially the story is Russian disinformation, then it's, I don't know if it's my laptop or not. He had a measure of defense in claiming that it basically wasn't authentic, right? That was the initial claim. So now he shifted from, which is a massive pivot, from I don't know if that laptop is mine and it's inauthentic to that laptop is mine, everything on it is real, and it's criminal for people to have shared the information on that laptop. That's a massive pivot. And it moves towards, to me, the only thing I can think in my head is that he is afraid that charges are coming, and that now he's trying, and he's aware that they can no longer claim the laptop isn't real, and now he's trying to claim that he's a victim of political adversaries of his father. That's where I would see this story going, but I don't think that's a better defense. because to me, he's totally weakened himself by admitting it's all real. I don't think once people know it's real, they're going to be like, oh, I feel bad that Hunter Biden and all the awful crimes that he potentially committed on that laptop have gone public. I don't think that this is a good legal strategy. And to me, it's indicative that he's facing more peril, because otherwise, why would he get aggressive all of a sudden? He has to think something bad is coming, and he's trying to go on offense in advance of that. That's the only way this makes any sense to me, Buck.
Yeah, I see something like that has to be at play here, because otherwise, why now? Why in this way? And what could be the possible, what's the play here? You always look with Hunter Biden, as much as he's a mess, there's an angle.
Clearly. And Buck, shifting out of this particular arena, this is like when you move from, oh, I didn't have sex with that woman, to, oh, it was consensual, to, oh, she's trying to blackmail me, right? Like if your initial defense is, I didn't do it, right? That's not real. That wasn't me. And then you shift to it's consensual. Now in a totally different world, it's like, actually, she is blackmailing me. She's the wrongdoer here, right? He's totally shifting all of his defense in this case. And the only way that makes sense is if he's expecting charges and he's pivoting because he has to provide a better defense. That's the only thing that makes sense to me. Dana Bash, I think she goes by Dana, right? Dana Bash at CNN says, it's noteworthy that Hunter Biden's changed course and has now a take no prisoners lawyer. Listen.
It is really noteworthy, Anderson, that Hunter Biden has made this decision now to change course. And in hiring Abby Lowell, who's a very well-known lawyer who's been working for decades here in Washington on cases like this, very high-profile cases. He is a take-no-prisoners kind of attorney. Hunter Biden knew what he was getting when he hired Abby Lowell, and this is the kind of thing that he clearly wants to do.
I just think it's really funny, by the way. First of all, I'd love to be described as a take no prisoners lawyer on CNN. It's like the best advertisement imaginable. But Buck, somebody is paying for Hunter Biden to get this lawyer because they think things are getting worse. That's the only possible reason.
Yes, and also, can you imagine what discovery would be like if Hunter Biden decided to actually try to drag?
Yes,
there's
no way
he's going to drag Rudy
yes.
Giuliani into court. Can you imagine some of the stuff that's going to come out on the Hunter side of things?
Yeah, and by the way, truth is a defense. Everything that has been reported so far about Hunter Biden appears to be true based on his own records and laptop. I wanted to play this because we were talking about Hunter Biden, new attorneys, new aggressive, I guess, sort of stance that Hunter Biden is adopting. And Ron Klain, who may well have been the default president of the United States, he has been the chief of staff for Joe Biden for the first 2 years that he has been in office. Ron Klain got emotional. They had a press conference for him. He started crying. And of all the things that he could focus on about Joe Biden, he said in particular, he learned everything about how to be a good father from Joe Biden. Best role model out there. Not sure I would make that argument given what's going on with Hunter.
I learned everything I know about how to be a good father from Joe Biden. He is the best father I know and the best role model I know.
I mean,
that was Ron Klain?
Yeah, he's crying.
Wow.
Of all the things that you could praise Joe Biden for right now, do you think, given what has gone on with Hunter, and look, I mean, there's a lot of scandalous things out there about his relationship with his daughter, is being a great father really what you would point to and be like, I learned, first of all, everything that you know? Did you not have a dad yourself? Do you not have any men in your household other than Joe Biden?
I think it's interesting because the way that they must, that the narrative must line up here is that Hunter Biden, and I do think that there is an understated public sympathy with Joe Biden because Hunter is such a mess, because he's such a disaster. People think, oh, I know, my brother or my sister-in-law or my, Uncle Morty or whomever, when they had their terrible drinking problem, and I know what that's like. So I think there is this undercurrent. And by the way, I understand and respect this. I'm saying I think there's this undercurrent of sympathy for him dealing with the mess. But to your point, Hunter is the mess, who is his son, and this is the end product of his fathering. So kind of a weird thing to think that he's father of the year.
Well, and not only Hunter, by the way. I mean, look, is it one of his, I don't remember the daughter's name, but the whole journal that turned into a big issue that had all sorts of supposedly not very positive things to say about Joe Biden as a father. I don't know that of all the things you could be saying, you're breaking down in tears, talking about everything you learned about how to be a father came from Joe Biden. It just, so much of this is not only that they lie to us, it's that they're clearly lying and on some level believing the lie themselves. I mean, this is grade A level Oscar performance by Ron Klain to be crying about how great of a father Joe Biden is. It's super strange. Now, I do think there's a lot of sympathy out there for Joe Biden about what happened with Beau. And Beau seems to have been an actual son that you could be proud of.
Yeah, but, Joe Biden, he has gone through tremendous personal tragedy. That is a fact. That is very true. He has also gotten a lot of political advantage out of talking about, in a very specific way at times, these tragedies. And
often untrue.
That's what I'm saying. And use them to advance himself. So... this is a big part of who he is.
Yeah, and again, he's played very loose with many of the facts. As we've talked about before, in the traffic accident, his wife died, and I think a daughter died. He claimed that the person who hit her was drunk. That's 100% a lie. He claimed that Beau died in Iraq while serving the country a lot of times. That's 100% a lie.
Anybody who has heard who doesn't know the backstory and hears what Joe Biden says about Beau thinks that Beau died in action in Iraq serving his country. And I'm sorry, that's just not true. So this is where we are.
He has had bad things happen to him. Rather than tell the truth about all the details surrounding that, he's exaggerated it. Just like I believe Ron Klain exaggerated the idea that Joe Biden is a actually really good father.